Start this hour with a story that is still unfolding right now along the Oregon coast. So this baby humpback whale that you see right here is fighting for its life right now after getting stranded on the beach in Waldport. That's about 15 miles south of Newport. The best shot to make it out back into the ocean for this whale was around high tide this morning, 1 o'clock. But unfortunately, a few hours ago, we're told that did not happen. That humpback whale still stuck on shore. Experts think it's a 20-foot humpback whale that is a year old, and they say it likely got separated from its mother. After it was found yesterday, students from Oregon State's Marine Mammal Institute worked to keep it cool. They poured water on the whale. But if you're thinking, geez, why didn't they just push it back in? Experts say that could actually be really dangerous.
People just automatically say, well, I'll come down and help you push it off. But this animal weighs over a ton, and flopping around, and one karate chop from a pectoral flipper or a hit from a fluke, it could very seriously injure somebody, break legs, arms, necks.
Again, the hope was that it would go back out into the ocean during high tide a few hours ago. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So now crews will meet this morning to determine the next best course of action. They are asking people to steer clear of the area, not to stress the whale out, and to give biologists room to work.
A man is in jail this morning charged with leaving Molotov cocktails outside two homes on Southeast 104th Avenue in Portland. Police arrested this man, 27-year-old Jesse Bennett, yesterday afternoon. They suspect he targeted at least one of the victims because of their sexual orientation.
A tragic accident took the life of a Beaverton School District employee. He was on a scissor lift doing maintenance work when that lift tipped over.
And we just heard a similar story like this last week. Two other people died in similar fashion. KGW's Mike Benner looked into this and found that accidents like this are extremely rare.
Westview High School in Washington County, the scene of a third workplace death in less than a week. Investigators tell KGW a man was on a scissor lift painting the school's interior courtyard when that scissor lift tipped over. The man fell more than 20 feet to the ground.
Our deputies were called initially to come set up a life flight landing zone, but once we got here, we realized that that wasn't necessary.
The man died at the scene, despite life-saving measures by medics. Authorities have not identified the man by name, only saying he was an employee of the Beaverton School District.
I'm sure he did come in contact with many students, so obviously they could be impacted by this, and we want to make sure that they're taken care of and parents aren't talking to them and make sure they're getting everything that they need.
Wednesday's incident comes just days after two men died while tearing down the Pickathon Music Festival in Clackamas County. Deputies say last Thursday, the men were in a cherry picker that tipped over. According to a GoFundMe page set up for the victims, Brad Sweat is remembered as a guy who absolutely loved trees and maintaining their health and natural beauty. Brandon Blackmore is remembered as having a great sense of humor and positive attitude. The way all three of these men died is awfully unusual. In fact, over a 3-year period starting in 2015, nationwide, an average of 24 aerial lift deaths a year. That according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. KGW has learned the men who died at Pickathon were wearing safety equipment. As for the man who died at Westview High School,
I don't know. That's what OSHA is investigating, so I'm not positive whether you had a harness on or not.
In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
Well, Mayor Ted Wheeler doubled down on his message to out-of-state protesters who are planning a rally in Portland on Saturday. A man from Florida is organizing it and says he wants to fly here to confront left-wing protesters from the group Antifa. So a big group of city leaders and activists stood with Mayor Wheeler in Pioneer Square yesterday morning calling for peace. The police chief says she has tapped all available officers to work Saturday, but she didn't say exactly how many that is.
I would hope that we are planning for a day of peace, a day of advocacy, and a day of, again, of unity here in the city of Portland. Of course, we prepare for the worst, but that's not what I'm projecting, and that's not what we're hoping for.
Well, TriMet is also busy planning for this protest. It's working closely with Portland Police and Transit Police to keep trains and buses running smoothly. Riders should plan, though, for some possible delays, even for trips outside of downtown.
Meanwhile, another person linked to a May Day brawl outside the pub Cider Riot is in jail this morning. Mackenzie Lewis is the fourth person arrested for that fight on Northeast Cooch. U.S. Marshals tracked him down yesterday, and he faces riot charges.
We now know the names of the Washington County deputies shot last week near Hagg Lake. We start with Corporal Jeremy Braun. He was the more seriously hurt of the two. He remains in the hospital this morning. Deputy Chris Iverson, meanwhile, was also shot, but he was treated and released the night of the shooting. Deputies also shot the suspect. Dante Halling is also still in the hospital.
Let's get to some national headlines in your morning rush. We start with an update on a story that grabbed the country's attention yesterday. A 7-hour standoff in Philadelphia is over, and the man accused of shooting 6 Philly police officers is in jail. Police were serving a warrant when they say 36-year-old Maurice Hill started shooting. 2 officers got stuck in the home with the shooter for nearly the entire 7-hour standoff. All 6 of those injured officers are okay and out of the hospital. Well, there are new fears of a possible recession after Wall Street had its worst day of the year yesterday. The Dow dropped 800 points during a major sell-off. It was all sparked by a dip in a key economic indicator that's known as the inverted yield curve. So the markets are set to open in about 25 minutes. We'll keep you posted on what happens. Flights at Hong Kong's International Airport have resumed a day after tense clashes between riot police and protesters. Smaller, peaceful demonstrations are continuing inside the terminal with lots of signs calling for democratic reforms and the resignation of the territory's chief executive. We are learning more about the 2 guards tasked with monitoring accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein on the night he died by suicide. New reports allege the guards fell asleep during their shift and later falsified records to cover up their failure to check on him every half an hour as required. Those guards could face federal charges. Coca-Cola is announcing some questionable new flavors for the holiday season. This year you'll be able to try Coke with cinnamon or winter spiced cranberry Sprites. I guess some people don't know what they think about that. Both of those flavors hit stores on September 30th. That is your morning rush.